Welcome to the Explainer. Ever wondered what really happens when a security alert goes off inside a major company? Well, today we're stepping into the world of cybersecurity to see exactly how analysts solve these digital mysteries.
So imagine this lands on an analyst's desk, an alert that a sensitive file was just shared. Is this a full-blown crisis in the making? Or is it, just a regular Tuesday at the office? For a security analyst, this is exactly where the investigation begins.
Okay, let's dive into this with a real-world scenario that might land on an analyst's desk at any moment. And here it is. This is the alert. Now, it might look pretty technical, but for an investigator, this single line raises a whole bunch of immediate questions. Like, who is G. Baker? Who is R. Lund? What exactly is this server? And maybe most importantly, is this totally normal or is something fishy going on here?
So, before an analyst can even begin to judge whether this activity is good or bad, they have to gather the basic facts. They need to know who and what are involved in this situation.
The very first step is to consult two absolutely crucial catalogs. On one side, you have the identity inventory that tells you everything about the people. On the other, the asset inventory, which covers all the machines. Think of these as the fundamental building blocks. Without them, you're basically just guessing.
Let's start with that identity inventory. Now, this is so much more than just an employee directory. It's really the analyst's address book for the entire organization, and it's key to understanding the who in any event. And check this out. A quick look at the inventory tells us that G. Baker is the chief financial officer. I mean, right there, that's a huge piece of context. An action that might have seemed random a second ago now starts to make a lot more sense. Okay, so we have the who. Next up, the analyst needs to understand the what by looking up the server that was involved, and for that they turn to the asset inventory. And there it is. HQ-FINF-02 is a dedicated file server for financial records. So, let's recap. We have a CFO accessing the financial file server to download a financial report. Suddenly, this alert is looking a whole lot less suspicious, right?
Now, that was a pretty clear-cut example. But what happens when the clues aren't people or servers, but just a stream of raw network data? Let's see how that looks.
Okay, imagine being faced with this. It's a timeline of cryptic IP addresses and network scans. It's confusing, right? It's just a jumble of numbers. To make any sense of an attacker's movements here, an analyst desperately needs a map.
And that map is the network diagram. This thing is a total game changer, because it turns that confusing list of numbers into a clear, visual picture of the entire environment.
Now, using that diagram, the analyst can trace the attacker's entire path, step by step. They can see the attacker trying to brute force their way into the VPN from the outside. Then, after they get in, they try to scan the database servers but get blocked. So what do? They pivot and start scanning the office network, probably looking for an easier target. That confusing timeline is now a clear story. So now that we have all this context, how does an organization make sure that every single analyst investigates with the same level of discipline and rigor every single time?
Well, the answer is a SOC workbook. You might also hear this called a playbook or a run book, but the idea is the same. It's the investigator's standard operation procedure.
You see, the whole point of these workbooks is to create a consistent, high-quality investigation every single time. They're designed to make sure no crucial steps are missed and to streamline the whole process, especially when the pressure is on.
And a typical workbook follows three logical stages. First is enrichment, where the analyst gathers all that initial context we talked about. Next comes the actual investigation, where they dig in and make a verdict. And finally, escalation. If it's malicious, it goes up the chain. If it's benign, maybe they just check in with the user. It's a clear roadmap.
So what's the big transformation that happens when all of these tools, the inventories, the diagrams, the workbooks, are used together effectively?
Well, it's a move from chaos to clarity. Before, the analyst is dealing with a ton of noise, confusion, and frankly, a lot of guesswork. But afterward, with the right tools in place, all that noise gets filtered into a clear signal. The analyst has context, and most importantly, they can investigate with confidence.
So what you should really take away from all this is that effective cybersecurity isn't magic. It's not about some lone genius in a dark room. It's a structured, methodical process. It's about having the right tools and a solid plan to turn what could be a scary alert into a totally manageable incident.
And this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As we rely more and more on these structured processes and detailed playbooks, what's the future role for human creativity and intuition in digital defense? That's a really interesting question to think about.